yellows and greens, and then when I got down into, some of these darks, oops, can't see what I'm pointing at. I got down into some of these darks, like here. I went in and I had some violet that I put in there. And I'll probably do the same on these trees. But like for the initial wash, all I did was yellows and greens. So I did kind of a light green yellow mix. Okay. That was that lemon yellow and permanent green #1 mix. And then and then I used permanent green #2 and probably a little hooker's green, but not a lot.
So I have cadmium yellow, no. Bismuth yellow, no.
Just the lightest yellow you have will be fine. Even if you have cadmium yellow,
okay. Oh, probably need to add some water to my paints.
Yes, that is helpful.
Am I the only one today?
No, Sonia's logging in right now. Hey, yes, Sonia.
Finally got through.
Yeah, that's all right. Becky's just catching up on some stuff.
Okay, I need to do the same. That's what I was doing while I was trying to get through. So.
Yeah, and Kathy just messaged me and said she was doing the same. So I said, well, go ahead and log in and we'll just catch up for a little bit. I'll just let you guys catch up for a while and then we can start when you guys are ready.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure.
Oh.
Whew.
Hello, I'm here.
Hey, Kathy. We're just
Hi.
we're just taking time to catch up. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
See you, Chris. You too.
Now, when you did the bush on the left, you left little holes. Is that what I was remembering?
Which one? This one?
So, yeah, the middle one, kind of that one.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of a vine that's growing over that has flowers. So I left little holes, and that's what these little yellow bits that I painted in afterwards. Those I just left white when I was painting the green. I just kind of painted around random spaces.
Okay.
So yeah, that's exactly what that is. Same with all this stuff down in here too. I just left random spots of white that I could then go back in and paint color in later.
But the bush on the far left, you did the same as the bush on the far right. Okay.
Yeah. This is some sort of other kind of tree or bush or whatever that's behind the wall there. It's just really, really muggy in here today. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really humid. But we got a nice rain yesterday.
Yeah, we did. We needed the rain. I just not a big fan of the humidity afterwards.
Yeah.
%33 humidity. Well, if we were in Houston, that would be a nice dry day, but
I'm ready when everybody else is, but no hurry.
all righty.
I'm just doing pine trees, so I'm trying to hurry.
I've just about got the edges done, so I'll be ready in just a minute.
Oh. Just lost my purple.
I'm sorry that I forgot to hit record last week and had so much trouble uploading. Well, getting it off my phone to begin with, and then uploading.
It happens.
I finally figured it out. It was because I didn't have enough space on my hard drive on my computer, and mostly because I hadn't restarted in a while, and I haven't cleaned it off in a while. There's a bunch of junk on it I need to clean off. That was the main reason it wouldn't transfer to my computer, but probably wouldn't have been a problem if I hadn't recorded in such a high definition. See you, Chris.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, I am too. I just have to dry the pine trees.
All righty.
Yeah, let me hit it with a hair dryer.
Come on.
There it is.
I'm back.
All righty. Okay. Let's see. So this is the one that I was working on originally. I was showing Becky earlier. This is the one that well, let me just. This is the one that I worked on. You know, that I started from scratch on Thursday. There's a few differences. I don't know which one I like better, so I'm just going to stick with the original one. But you know, it's basically the same. I do remember I accidentally smeared. If you look closely here, you can kind of see that I accidentally smeared some paint when I was painting, and I purposely left that so that I could show you guys how to deal with stuff like that. So why don't we start with that? Oh, I got my paint all wet, but dried out while we were okay. So I'm going to start off with that just to kind of show you guys. It's obviously it's perfectly, you know, it's 100% dry. And because, well, it happened over a week ago. So all I really am going to do is just take a clean brush. I'm going to use, I think, my number 8 round. You could use a smaller one. This just happens to be the one I picked up, and I'm not sure where the other one went. Which is, oh, there it is, hiding. So I'm just going to come in here and get this wet with a little water just in this area. And I probably could have left it and just not worried about it at all. But I not exactly sure how these shadows are gonna look, so I just wanted to kind of fix it anyway. So so I'm just gonna kind of pick that up, and you can see just by letting that sit there for a second and then picking it up with a dry rag, I got most of that up. I can hit it again with a little more water. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but just let it sit for a little bit. And then, I mean, I didn't even scrub. I just blotted it up. And it came right up. So whether it's a week or 20 years, you can still kind of go back in. I found something that was wonky on one of my paintings that I did 20 years ago, and I fixed it. I don't know, it was probably 10 years ago that I discovered it, but I remember fixing something that was about 10 years old. And I, you know, once that dries, I can go back in and sharpen up those lines or whatever if I want, but I'm just going to leave that like that for now. I do know that, I think it was here. Actually, this was supposed to be kind of green. I don't think there was I don't remember where I think the space that I had left for a flower was actually there, and I think I just kind of smeared it like that. So just pick that back up. I can even come back in and add just a hint more green on top of that now that that's kind of dry. That's too much, obviously. But just add just a bit more green right in there. And on camera, it looks a little dark, but in person, it's not too bad. And then once that dries, it'll be fine. So let's see here. So before I get into any of the details and kind of figuring out where shadows are and stuff, let's go ahead and do this. I've got this mountain back in the background here. You may or may not have one, but I'll show you what I'm going to do for that. And that's fairly simple. I'm going to come over here to my palette, and I have this kind of nice blue purple mixed up right here, or purpley blue, whatever. Well, dark purple, I guess, really is what it is. It's just a. I'm going to add. So that was my quinacridone violet, which is this, and royal blue. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. I mean, even though this is dry, I can reconstitute it. I'm just going to come in and grab a little bit more royal blue because I want this to be more blue than violet. So there's my royal blue. I am going to add just a hint more. I got a little bit too much royal blue there. I'm going to add a little bit more of the violet. Maybe if I can get some. Here we go. There we go. So what I want is a really blue violet. So you can see it's got a nice kind of blue violet shade. So I'm going to come back over here, and you know, I've loaded my brush up with that. I got a fair amount of water in there. I'm going to go ahead and put some on the paper, and then I'll come back in with a clean brush and just smooth it out with water, kind of like that wash we did the first night of class, which was just a smooth gradient. That's basically what this is going to be, except it's not really a gradient. So I'm just going to come in and kind of put that in. And the only reason I did it really thin right there is because this was kind of coming out towards the top of my mountain. So I wanted to get some of that down. Oops. Yeah, I guess I got a little rise coming up there. That's all right. So we'll just kind of do that. I've got enough down there now that I can come in and just really lighten that up with water. Just, you know, I basically cleaned my brush out and just grabbed some clean water. That's all that's in the brush. And now I'm just moving that existing paint around. Sometimes it's a little easier for me to come in from the top. I could flip I could flip my drawing board around, but I'm not going to do that this time. But by all means, if it's a little hard to get down in some of these little spots, feel free to flip your board around so that you're painting upside down, and then it's easier to get into some of those areas. I'm just making this shape where I kind of screwed up one that I like. So let's keep pulling that down. I can add a little bit more paint if I feel like it got a little too light. Let's see, it'd be kind of darker on this side of something anyway, so let's just kind of pull that down. We'll just put a little bit of dark in there and let that kind of run. At the distance this is, there's not a lot of detail in this mountain that we're going to see there. It's really just there to kind of help add interest to the background and to sort of help define these shapes a little bit. Just kind of keep moving that paint around. And when I get over here, I can leave some of this white around. You know, I don't have to follow the shape that I've got already on these trees. I can kind of change the shape by leaving some of that white there. That just acts as you know, kind of a dappled, or where not necessarily dappled, but where sunlight's kind of hitting something, and it's really, you know, really bright. So it's hitting a part of the leaf and reflecting quite a bit of light back onto, towards us. So let's see, I'm going to add just a hint of dark here and sort of let that run down in there, just to add a little texture to this. Maybe where there's little valleys or something up in the hills. Again, I don't need a lot of detail, but just a little bit of that kind of goes a long way, just to add a little bit of volume and texture to our mountain. Maybe this kind of disappears into this tree over here a little bit. I don't know that it needs to be that much, but have that kind of come over in there. So that's really it. I mean, it's pretty easy just to kind of, let's see if I feel like I can even add, as that is drying, I can add more water to some spots and use those blossoms as that texture. So it forms kind of these natural little gullies and shapes within the paint that also add to that kind of mountain. That you know, the feeling that it is a mountain, the look of this mountain back in the background. I didn't really like that shape. I kind of stepped back from it, took a little look at it, and didn't really like that shape there. So I can just add some more water and lighten it up. And now it's a little bit different shape that I do like. And where I have too much water, I can just go back to that thirsty brush, and I can come in and squeeze the brush out, and then use that to pick up any excess that we may have. Maybe I want to pick up a little of that. And all I'm doing is just kind of rolling the brush through that puddle a little bit. Yeah. And that just kind of ties in this whole thing. It kind of acts as kind of that back, you know, kind of the background of what we have going on here. And it just, that nice kind of purpley blue is a really nice complement to the green. Let me dry that really quick. Oh, cord is stuck. There we go. I don't need to dry it all the way, just get it mostly dry. And I want to add some value changes in this, because right now this tree is looking a little flat. I did a little bit of that over here on this vine, but I want this to really help some of this foreground stuff pop. So I'm going to come in. I think I'm going to switch over to my number 6 round. And I'm going to grab a little Hooker's Green and Royal Blue mix. You can see that I have that over here in my palette. This is the Hooker's Green and Royal Blue that I've just mixed till I was happy with it. We'll get it wet again. You can see it's the same green, Hooker's Green, Royal Blue that we use in the pine trees. And I may just add just a skosh more blue to that, just to get it a little bit more on that blue side. And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to start thinking about shapes that I want within this tree. So I know that I want a little bit of volume. So I want to kind of push this section forward. It's already starting to come forward a little bit because this is quite a bit lighter than this. So I'm going to start by emphasizing that and maybe sculpting a bit of shape into the top of this. So I'm going to come in. I kind of like what I've got here already. So I'm just going to kind of bring that dark in, and that I realize that looks really dark, but I'm now going to clean my brush out and just come back in with water. And just kind of pull that in. So I have a nice kind of dark in a few spots. Then I'll kind of bring this up in a few areas, like there's a little bit of dark coming through some of these other leaves. Maybe we'll come back up here as well. And I'll just kind of think about the shape that I want this to be. Do I like that? Maybe. So let me just clean my brush out, and that was just the paint, not a lot of water. Now I'm going to come back in and add a fair amount of water and really kind of let that kind of feather out a little bit. And you can see that starts to push it forward towards us, and gives it a little bit of volume as well. So just put a little, you can come in. I'm going to put a little bit over here as well. I don't want this dark to kind of end on one side of this hollyhock that's going up in there. So I want to push that forward as well. So this can kind of come in like so. And maybe I'm going to grab a little of that violet that we used here and add a little bit of that down in here. Just to kind of switch up the color a little bit. We'll just pull that out. Maybe this could be a tree, and this could be another tree. This could be a tree. I'm not sure. And it doesn't really matter, but this starts to add a little bit of volume, a little bit of depth to our shapes here. Let's see, I like that. But I'm going to come back in. I want a little bit of the same thing maybe going on over here. Maybe this shape has a little dark over here where it's casting shadow on the rest of it. So I'm just going to come in. That's fairly dark. Now I'm going to come back in with just a clean brush and some water. And I'll pull that this way, and that will start to give that kind of volume out some more. It'll start really making that look like there's more dimension to it than just a little bit that it had already. And then just every now and then I'll put a little bit of dark up in there just to say, oh, well, there's a little light, little view into the interior of the tree right in here. Pick some of that back up where it's maybe a little too much. Maybe this comes down against this wall. So we get a nice clean edge. And then I'm just going to kind of come in. Let's see if I can kind of zoom in on that a little bit so you can see. Basically, I'm just kind of using the side of my brush, and I was making little tick mark kind of things that look a little bit like, you know, branches or something sticking out behind here, just to, you know, add more texture, more of that texture, that tree, give it that feel of a tree. I'm going to grab a little of that violet again, maybe, and throw that in here. Just, again, it adds vibrancy to have that complementary color in there. So you have green, but then you also have violet, which technically red is the complement, but because there's red in the violet, it still kind of counts. I don't like that sharp line that's forming there, so I'm just gonna, before that dries, I'm gonna come over and kind of lift some of that back out, squeeze my brush out, and then maybe roll that back a little bit. So maybe I can rethink how I want to do this. And then I want a little bit of dark back here. Maybe this is, so there's, maybe this is part of this tree, or it's part of another tree back there. It doesn't really matter, but I want a little bit of dark back over in here. And I'm just going to kind of do that same thing, that same kind of shape thing that I was doing right there, just in that dark. And then we'll clean our brush off. And we'll just kind of pull that in with just the water. And it just starts to add a little, again, more volume to these trees. I'm going to add a little bit of spots where just trying to randomly put little dark areas in there. Helps break up those shapes a little bit. Maybe I want this tree to kind of be in front of that one too. So we'll just sharpen this line up a little bit. I'm going to leave this kind of that dark that it is already, and then just kind of bring this back down. Come in with a little violet. I'm just going to bring it down to the wall there. And now this looks like it's in front as well. I can even come in, maybe I want to do a little bit of, you know, kind of a twig kind of thing, shape up in there. I can come back in with a little, I did a little bit of that over here with the lemon yellow permanent green #1 mix, which I now have. I still have some on my palette, and just added a little bit of that kind of wispy look to the edge of the tree. So it's just a little bit different than things we've done in the past, but it adds a kind of nice texture to that tree. Don't know what kind of tree it is. It doesn't really matter. We just know it's some sort of tree or bush or whatever. Then I want to do a little bit over here on this side as well. It doesn't need a whole lot because this is kind of going to kind disappear a little bit. Need a little drink of water here. So I want to do some of what we've done over here. But again, this is all going to kind of be, because it's on the edge, it's not going to be that noticeable later. But I'm going to come in with that dark green blue mix. Again, same color. I don't mind that if this kind of gets lost into that a little bit, that's okay. But I'm going to just come in with a little bit of dark down in here. I got to watch out. There's some flowers there. Just add a little bit more dark over here. Let's pull that up into here. That was actually more water than paint. It just looks really dark. And it's all it is that dark green that I mixed. And that's really all I think that needs. I don't know that it needs a whole lot. I could come in here. I want to add a little volume to this. But I need to be careful of where those flowers are. So I think, I've already got a little bit of violet in there. I think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to come back over to my palette. Got to figure out a better light than that one right there. So I have this violet, and then I have a little bit of this is cerulean blue right there. No, that's not cerulean blue. That's cobalt blue, I think. No, what is that? It's verditer blue. Doesn't really matter. Cerulean blue. It's just this kind of grayish blue. Cerulean blue would work fine too. I'm going to grab a little bit of that because it's a little chalk. Well, no, I don't want to use that. I take that back. I'm just going to go with the royal blue. These scissors keep sticking myself with these scissors, so I got to move them out of the way. I'm just going to grab some more of this nice royal blue quinacridone violet mix that I have here. I think it's going to be the best. So I'm going to come in again, just kind of working my way around some of these flowers, and just thinking about, would this shape be coming forward a little bit? I think so. So I'm going to kind of try and make that more apparent by adding a little bit of a shadow on one side. There's another little shadow over in here. And then I'll add a few spots where, let me just grab some, I'm going to clean my brush out and just go in with water now. Pick up the paint that I have on the paper already. And then just use it. And I can, I can always go back in and add more paint to my brush, but I don't need that right at this moment. So you can see that's starting to add a little volume, maybe. So I want a little bit of shadow on the back side of this. I'm going to come in with just that Hooker's Green royal blue mix. And I just want a little bit, I just want to show a little bit of how this is maybe in front of that little bunch of clump of the vine. So I put the paint down pretty much full force. Then I clean my brush back out and start moving some of that paint around with just water. So, and that just adds a little more volume, a little more texture to this whole vine kind of thing. Makes it just a little bit more interesting. Maybe there's a little bit here. We'll kind of divide this section here. And all this is that Hooker's Green, but just really light. I don't want it too dark up in here. So I'm just grabbing a little bit but it's mostly water. And I'm just kind of moving that around with the water on my brush. And that just adds a little bit more volume. Kind of did the same thing. I realized that I really kind of screwed this little area up. Not that bad, but I'm going to just kind of clean up that too. Odds are there'll end up being some shadow or something back in there, but I really smeared my hand through there. Yeah, but I think I'm kind of happy with these tree shapes. Maybe I might come up here. I'm gonna hit this with an, let's see, is that dry? Yeah. I'm gonna hit this with an eraser where I have some eraser that's still just or some pencil, I mean, that was still kind of didn't have any paint over it. And I want to add, I really like the kind of this kind of feathery look. So I'm going to grab some of that Hooker's green, not Hooker's green, I'm sorry, lemon yellow, permanent green #1 mix. And I'm just going to come back in with my brush on the side so you can see I'm holding it almost like if I was holding a pencil to do a little shading. And I'm just going to kind of come in with that brush just to give it a little more kind of that feathered look right there. Then I can clean my brush out and I can come back in and just sort of soften that stuff. So it looks like it's was done at the same time. Maybe a little bit more. We'll just come in, use the tip more in this case, and just kind of. It won't really matter. I don't like that shape that I just made, so I'm just going to lift that back up. It won't matter. I can change the shape of this tree with the sky in a little bit, but I do like that happens, so I'm going to leave that. I like what's going on here, although that's probably going to go away, but it's kind of an interesting look. It'll end up disappearing a little bit because of the sky and because of, what I do at the end. But yeah, that's not too shabby. All right. So while that's kind of drying, let's come back over here to this gate. And because it's so close, I want to put a little bit of detail into it. And all I'm going to use is just my number 6 round because it has such a nice little point. If I had, I could take my liner brush, which also has a nice point, but is a little long. Oh. It's a little long, but I could use this as well. It's got a really nice point on it, but I kind of like using this one. Sorry about that, Becky. I didn't realize you'd gotten knocked out.
That's okay. I've been knocked out for a while.
Oh, geez.
Been trying to get reconnected. So here I am.
Oh, good
Thank
deal.
you for letting me in.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so I want to put a little bit more detail. I want to make this look, we have this nice kind of faded blue paint job, which we did with opera and multiple different kinds of blues and stuff. And then we went in with these, details of the boards and how these chunks of wood are kind of shaped. But I want to add a little bit of kind of weathering to this. So I'm just going to use that. I'm going to come. So over here, I have this nice dark blue green, and I like that. I'm just going to add a little bit more royal blue to it. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of royal blue. So it's just even a little bit more blue. I don't know how to get light on that. Let's see here. I'm gonna, that just, there we go. So I'm just, it's a little bit more blue than green, but not much. I still kind of like having that little bit of green in there. So it still feels a little bit like a really dark peacock blue, or I don't know. It just has that kind of fun color, just kind of fun look to me. Just by adding just a little bit more blue, I get a nice dark blue-green. And I'm going to come back over here. And I don't need a lot of paint in my brush. So what I did was I kind of cleaned it out after mixing. And I'm just going to go in and just pick up a little bit on the tip of my brush. And I'm going to use a very light touch. And all I'm going to do is just barely, let's see if I can get this over here so you can, I'm just going to barely kind of come in and make a few little kind of fun little, oh, well, maybe there's a little split, in this piece of wood. So it kind of comes down. They're not super noticeable, but, they're noticeable enough. Maybe this, has a little bit of, it's just the rings of the tree, the grain of the tree, I should say, not the rings. That's really all I'm kind of dealing with here. I'm just kind of putting in that grain a little bit. Since we're so close, just adding a little bit of let's see if I can get it even better. Just adding a little bit of that. And it's real light. It's very subtle. I don't want to overdo it. It is easy to overdo. Sometimes, maybe there's a little knot right there or something. That happened accidentally, by the way, where I just pressed a little bit harder with my brush. So it made that little bit of a kind of a thicker line there. And I just came back in and added just a hint to it to give it that kind of knotty look. So we'll just kind of, all I'm doing is just kind of randomly putting in a few little streaks of grain, really. Where it gets a little thicker, I can make that into a knot if I want. Odds are that may disappear later, but it's okay. Maybe this one's got another little split that's starting at the top there and coming down. But it's kind of fun to add this little bit of texture to, this little bit of wood grain visible through the paint. This one seems to be an extra wide board, but that's okay. Maybe there's a nice good split in it. And let's see. We got a little bit of end grain here, so we'll just kind of put a few little light kind of textural marks in that, and then maybe this one gets a little thicker right there and turns into a split that's coming down. Into that piece of wood there. Well, that's kind of fun. Just doing stuff like that. obviously, if this is your gate at home, you're not super happy about all this, but but being a painting, it makes it more interesting and kind of fun. Maybe there's another little split right here. Brush finally kind of dried up on me. Yeah. Got another little guy starting there. Let's pull this one down a little bit more. It is a little hard to see in this on camera in this dark, but you know, that looks pretty good. This, so in theory, this is probably cut, not a whoa. Oh, that's weird. My seat just broke. Apparently my kind of got a balance in my chair now. One of the wheels on my office chair decided to give way. I mean, it's only a 15-year-old chair, so I guess you can't expect them to last forever. Okay, where was I? So in theory, this would actually be probably a couple of pieces of wood that are cut on a curve. But I'm going to pretend that this was, you know, so the grain would run this way, you know, straight across. But that's, I don't know, that's not as interesting. So I'm just going to kind of make mine curved. And follow the curve of the wood. Like maybe somebody soaked this piece of wood and then bent it, heated it up and bent it. So it's a nice curved piece of wood. And, you know, maybe there's a little split right here where that comes out from that piece there. Yeah, so all I did was just add a little bit of texture. I kind of feel like maybe there needs to be something going on right there. Like this crack is so big that it also, maybe it disappears a little bit there and then comes down into there. Just, you know, by adding that little bit of texture and barely, you know, I'm barely touching the paper with my brush. A few of these got a little dark. I'm not super crazy about those. I can come back in and where I think maybe that got a little heavy, and I can lift that back up. Maybe take this one out entirely. Pretty easy just to kind of lift that back out and it's gone. Same with this one. It got a little thick, so what I can do is just come over here and thin it up just a little bit by lifting, and now it kind of trails off a little bit better. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I could add a little bit of texture. Let me just grab a little bit more of that. Maybe up here. Well, that's a little dark. I just cleaned my brush out and then got water. You know, maybe there's a few little bits of texture up in there that need to happen. But now that looks more interesting, and because it's so close to us, we can see, you know, we can see this texture. All right. Any questions about that? I'm going to guess not. Okay. So I want to think about how these, you know, this is kind of casting a shadow down here. So how would these cast a shadow onto this wall? Now they're fairly close to this wall. And because the sun's coming down at kind of this angle, I have to think about, I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but I can kind of tell that the sun's kind of coming in kind of at that angle. So I have to think about, and I can use my pencil wherever I put it. I can use my pencil here to kind of think about this. This, you know, shadow from this would be cast, and the top of it would be kind of in this area. You know, there'd be this kind of and same with this. You know, if I'm going to kind of go at the same, this would probably be kind of somewhere in there. This one would more than likely come all the way over the top and kind of be in there somewhere. This one would, you know, kind of come in like so. That's going to be down in there. Maybe there's a little bit of shadow here. So I'm just kind of, you know, I think this one would be kind of further over, closer to the plant itself. So I'm just kind of quickly sketching in kind of where I think those would be. Maybe there's a little bit of shadow here. There's probably a little bit of cast shadow from this thing kind of coming in like so. Most certainly there's going to be a little bit over here on the wall. I don't want it to be super dark. But, you know, just kind of thinking about where those shadows would come in. Do I want them that close to the wall? I don't know. I'm kind of rethinking that. Maybe if I move them, well, I don't know. I'm gonna do that and see what I think about it. I don't need to make them exactly match the shapes of these things. I mean, all it's going to be, I'm still going to use this, you know, number 6 brush. And I'm just going to continue. I'm going to grab a little quinacridone violet just by itself. So if you recall, I'll come back over here. That's this little puddle here that I've got. So that's quinacridone violet, just pure quinacridone violet. This is where I've mixed it with blue, so I get that more purple. And I'm just going to use this. I want to mimic kind of what's going on in this area of my wall there. With this, I may use a little bit of that blue as well. We'll see when we get there. But I'm going to start with this. And I'm going to start over here because I seem to have a bad time dragging my hand through the paint. And I'm just going to kind of give it a dappled, here it doesn't really matter because it's so so close to the edge. It's just going to be a dark shape back in there. Maybe I will add a little of that blue. It's that same blue that we used in the trees. We'll add a little bit of that just to, but I want to make sure just to have a little bit of different, color variation. Let me go back to the violet. I think it's looking too much like the plant. I want to make sure that the color, that orange that of the wall comes through. So I don't want this very dark. So it's just really kind of a thin little wash, mostly water. Let's grab some more of that. Well, in this case, I am going to use that kind of blue-green. And so that's a lot of pigment that I just put down on there. So now I'm just going to use a clean brush to kind of move it around. We'll add a little bit of that over here so it's not just... Now we'll go in and maybe use a darker violet. Again, this is just a really thin, mostly water kind of wash. Just adding a little bit of a shadow back in there. Let's come in. We use that violet again up in here. So that seems like a lot. So I'm just going to come in. With more water. Maybe we'll switch it up to some of that blue-green again. The whole time, though, I want that look of kind of dappled. So you can see I'm leaving little areas of white. It's a little hard to tell. This looks like a little area of white. That's actually a glare. But I've left little, and I guess not white, but little areas where the regular color of the wall shows through without any wash over it. And that's just so that it looks dappled. Sometimes plants aren't solid, so I want to kind of, but at this same size, it's a little difficult to really get that dappled effect, but that's okay. So let's I'm going to start with that violet again, I think. Quinacridone violet, we'll just put that in there. Again, lots of pigment. I reloaded my brush. Now I'm just going to clean it and use water. And you can see I'm just kind of using the point of my brush because it's such a small little area to, put in a little shadow there. Not real happy with that one, but that's all right. I can do the same for this bush. I'm going to come in with that same violet and just kind of, I sort of sketched it in there, but let's see, I'm going to use a little of that blue-green. I sketched it in there, but I don't, that's really just a suggestion to kind of give me an idea of where I thought it might go. And you can see still kind of breaking up that shape. Let's go back to the violet. Not that one, though. So this is just quinacridone violet. Got a little bit too much water now. I want it fairly thin, but I don't want that big a puddle. I just want kind of a nice little shadow. – kind of come around. Maybe we'll move back into this blue-green. Just kind of painting around things and if I feel like it's too dark, I can always go back in and lift, but I'm going to let that dry and see what happens. I don't think it's going to be too dark. Let's come back in over here with some violet. We'll finish up this little shadow here. Maybe back into some blue-green kind of. The important thing is to keep, you want it to be thin so color of the wall can show through. You want to leave some areas where you didn't paint any of this color so that it has that dappled effect. You can get that just by doing stuff like this on the edge where it's just kind of randomly shaped. Little twigs and branches and stuff sticking out. I'm going to switch back to so that was that green or blue-green mix. I'm going to switch back to just the violet. And again, so that's kind of got a dappled look and, kind of a raggedy edge where it's a little bit more interesting shape. If I don't feel like it's dark enough, which it may not be up in here, I can come back in and add a little more pigment where I feel like it needs a little bit more to help really push that bush forward and the wall back. Same with right there. Maybe we'll come in with some of that blue-green mix. Just to help kind of push that forward a little bit. We'll see what happens over there. We'll just come across and do the rest of this. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with that blue-green. And again, this is mostly blue. There's very little green in it. It's just got a hint of green in it. We'll start here. Again, that seems like an awful lot of paint. It's very dark. I picked up a little much, so I'll just clean my brush out. I may even have to clean it out twice. Maybe I'll make this just a little taller. Really thin that out. Just kind of make an interesting shape. Switch over to a little violet maybe. Grab a little more, clean my brush out and grab a little more water because I got a little bit too much paint on it and not enough water. And you can do that multiple times. Maybe I got too much water and it's still sort of forming a dark puddle right there. So I just want to pick some of that back up. We'll switch back to that blue-green. Not for any other reason than I just felt like it didn't, I don't know that it necessarily needed it. I just felt like it. Kind of look at it for a second, see if I like that. I might make that, I'm going to come in with a little of the darker purple down in there, I think, just to kind of make that just a wee bit darker down in there. See what happens. let's see. I'm going to start with a little violet up in here for this shadow. Just problem is that it's very similar to this, so I have to be a little careful. I think I'm going to go back to the blue. I don't mind. I want a little bit of that in there, but I'm going to come back to this blue. And even this could be maybe just a bit taller. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We'll just kind of bring this down in here. Let's come in with that violet again. And maybe a little bit of the dark blue, or dark blue green, I mean, as we get kind of darker down in here where there would be a little bit. I can even break up some of these shapes that I have, and which I think I'm going to do. That was kind of a large shape that I didn't really care for. So just by taking that darker color and painting over it, I can change the shape of that little flower. Let's see. I'm going to come in. I'm going to use that. I accidentally mixed a little violet into my blue-green. It's a little hard to tell. So this is just a little bit grayer blue-green than this. So I'm going to use a little of that, I think. I kind of like what it did. So I'm going to start off up here. And there's a little bit of a curve to this wall. So I want to kind of show that just by creating just a wee bit of a curve. It's a little hard to tell. It's very subtle, but it's there. So I'm going to come in with this bit, then maybe move into that darker violet. Maybe even the lighter violet. Just the plain old violet, just to... And we'll just kind of keep pulling that down in there. Let's switch back to that darker, the blue-green, the less gray version. As it gets a little darker down in here. I can change those shapes up. It doesn't matter. It looks good when you know. Sometimes if you don't care for a shape, you can come back in with a darker color and change it. Maybe I want to kind of come in, change that up just a wee bit, but you can see it's starting to, you know, kind of feel like shadows cast on that wall from these hollyhocks. There'd probably be a little bit over here. I'll come back over there in a second. Let's go with a little of that blue-green for this one. We'll just kind of make it a little taller. I mean, I did kind of mimic that shape a little bit. It's not important that you absolutely mimic a shape, but I just thought, oh, well, that one's a little pointier than what I kind of sketched in there, so I'll just make it a little pointier. I'm going to switch over to the violet. Let those two colors run together nicely. Maybe back to that blue. Back in here. A little too much water. It wasn't flowing right, so we'll just kind of come in. What I'll do is when I come in here and put this little bit of darker area there, it helps push this section forward just a bit. So just kind of get that kind of... I can always come back in if I need to later and add another wash on top of this, another glaze of color. I don't know that I will need to do that. So I'm still using that blue Now I think I'm going to switch over to a little green. This is more Hooker's green than royal blue. And that's just because. There's no reason. I just kind of like it and wanted to use a little bit of it. Maybe a bit too much water in that, so we'll just pick up some of that excess. Let's see. I'm going to use a little of the violet, just the quinacridone violet. We'll start off with that. Then let's move into some of the, maybe that darker violet. Just kind of pulling that in, down into there. I can change this shape up. We'll just grab some of this blue now. I can change this shape of that area up, and even whatever's going on there, kind of change that up. And then even though we can't see it, there's, you know, maybe another hollyhock or something over here. So I'm just going to put a little shadow in here. Again, that won't be as visible, but it will be back there just to kind of continue that garden along. If we kind of lift this back out and reassess what we got going on here. I think these might need to be a little darker. I got these darker and I kind of like them a little bit better. So I'm going to come back in and do a little bit more on top of these just real quick. Doesn't need a lot, just a little bit. And I don't even have to follow perfectly what I did before. I can just kind of add just a wee bit more color down on top just to help sell that shadow. Let's see. Down. Maybe this one, this shadow meets up with that shadow. And all I'm doing is pulling up a little bit more paint up into there, and then this is going to come down in there. Let's grab a little of that violet. And this will, again, this will dry lighter than what it looks like right now. So I'm not too worried about it being a little too dark. If it is, I can lift it back out. But I'm actually fairly pleased with that. Let's see. Let's finish up this thought here. I got distracted by that and didn't finish up what I was doing over here. Maybe that one goes up in there as well. Or really more likely this shadow comes down a little lower. Yeah, that's sort of pushed those back a little bit. Or pushed the wall back a little bit more and pulled those flowers forward. Just kind of do that. That may be a little too much. We'll see. Come back in and just lift a little bit of that up. And then I think there might be a little, yeah, there'd be a little bit of a shadow over in here somewhere. Maybe even a little back in here. Not much, just a little bit. We'll let that, I got to switch seats real quick, Mike. I'm about to flip out of this thing. Let's see. How am I going to do that? All right, we'll deal with that later. Now I got grease all over my fingers. Okay, where were we? Sorry about that. Whoops. What did I do? Okay. Yeah, so, you know, you can see that that's starting to have, yeah, kind of a nice shadow. Let me hit that with a couple of spots haven't dried yet. This one may be just a bit on the dirt. Oh, it dried. So but yeah, I'm happy with that. That's maybe a little bit dark here, so I can just kind of come back in and add a little water. Come in with my paper towel and lift that back out just a skosh. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. I might want to, I think I want to add just a wee bit more dark. You know, I had this up in here, but I want to come in and add just a bit more dark in here, just to, and all this is that blue green. It's Hooker's green and royal blue, but this is the bit that's more green than blue versus what we were using over here that was more blue than green. And I just want to add just a wee bit more, you know, just another little glaze on top, just to darken some of that, push that back in there a little bit. Maybe even just a skosh over here. I have kind of a line that formed. I want to kind of make that into a bigger shape, less of a line and more of a shape. You know, I like the sharp edge. I just don't want it to be an outline. I want it to be an edge of a larger shape. So I just kind of want to change that shape up a little bit as well. Just pull some of that, push some of this dark back in there and kind of change that shape up. Just a skosh. There we go. Okay, I like that. That's a little better. Kind of just, it helps that volume from the bush, you know, or vine or whatever this is. I add a little bit right in here as well. Just to kind of help that a little bit. Sort of soften up some of these edges so it's not quite as sharp in a few spots. Now I'm trying to decide, I feel like I need just a wee bit more of a shadow here. I don't think it's going to take much. What I'm going to do is take my flat, my 1-inch flat, and I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to grab a little quinacridone violet and put it on top of this blue violet mix that we have here. So it's just a wee bit darker. But I want a lot, you know, as far as hue goes, but then I'm going to really water it down. So I just want a really watery wash. And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker shadow here. You can kind of see just pushing that shadow, you know, just making that a little bit more in shadow. I still have all those really great, exciting colors showing through. But I have, let's see, let me really clean my brush out here. But I've added just a little bit of darker paint. I'm trying to lift that up, not put more color down. Although that's, you know, okay. But you can see I just darkened that just a little bit. And pushed that more into the same value as this. So it feels like it's more in shadow. And then as we get more over here, it can lighten back up a little bit. So yeah, that's all I did there is just take that one little bit of violet and I added a little bit of another wash on top of that. Let me pick up some of this excess. And it just sort of helps sell that volume a little bit more. It really helps that really helps that that, you know, helps show that mass of the adobe wall and how thick it is. And yeah, just by adding that little bit more, it brings it down to the same value as this shadow, which it should be. Let me just hit it with a dryer. Yeah, it just helps that. Yeah, I think it helps overall the mass of this wall a little bit better. Just darkening that up just a bit. All right, so let's let me get this out of the way. I'm going to flip this around and do the sky, and I don't know. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do for the sky yet. I'm just going to start out and see how I feel about it. as we go. So I'm going to start off with just getting that area wet. You know, I like to paint sky wet on wet. There's a little bit of color still on my brush. That's all right. Come up in here. Yeah, I still have a little bit of violet in my brush. I didn't wash it very well, but it won't matter. So just kind of coming along the edge of everything. I don't have to be super careful, but I want to be, you know, fairly careful. I don't need to worry too much about these trees kind of feathering out. They'll do that, and it's okay. When you hit this with water, it'll start. You can see it starting to bleed a little bit right there, and that's all right. It's not going to hurt anything. Just a little water there. I got a lot of bleeding going on there, but that's all right. Make sure that this is nice, still nice and wet. I do have a fan going, so it does, even though it's very humid, it does dry out kind of quickly. All right, so I think I got that wet enough. We'll just come in. I'm going to use a little peacock blue. That's this guy right here. I'm not too worried. In fact, I'll just clean off a little spot. It's not imperative. I'm just going to make sure I have fairly clean. I don't know what that blob of paint is. Cerulean blue, maybe. So we'll just come in with a little peacock blue. And I need to move the camera back over so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to start dropping in that color in some spots. I'm going to work my way around these trees, leaving some white around the tree. I can overlap in spots as well, where I don't mind losing an edge, but you can see I want some white still in there. And that just, it adds to that kind of sun hitting the tree kind of effect. Let me grab a little more color. Just kind of put that down. So some of those areas I'm leaving white. Some I'm letting the color overlap a little bit. It's okay. It starts drying out on me, I can add a little bit more water. Let's see, I'm not too worried about being exact around these trees. It's okay if they get a little bit of bit of color overlap. Oops. So now I'm going to grab my roll of toilet paper, and I'm going to pull off a good cloud, good bunch, and I'm going to form that kind of cloud shape. I don't want a perfectly round cloud. I want kind of an elongated cloud shape. And I'm just going to come in and let's see, where maybe right there. There's a bit of a cloud sticking out over that maybe or something. Kind of rotate it a little bit. There we go. That's kind of interesting. Maybe just a little bit more over there. Maybe this cloud's coming over the mountain there a little bit. I can even kind of just use this little edge, maybe kind of make a little pointy bit. Yeah, I like that. Now I'm going to take my number 6 round, grab a little more peacock blue, and I'm going to start defining some areas that I like. So I kind of like this little shape. It may be a little hard for you guys to see, but there's kind of a little shape right here that I like. So I want to kind of define that a little bit. This is still fairly wet. The cool thing is we've dried the paper enough where we shouldn't get too much bleed back into that back into where we've lifted. So we'll just kind of pull that off into there like that. Need a little more color back in here because this is so dark. I don't want it stopping behind the tree. I want it stopping past the tree. So I just need to pull in a little more color right there. So it feels like it's the same sky. Maybe a little more up in here. I do like this shape that's happening here, but I don't want it too dark. So I'm just going to come in with a little bit. Since I put some color down already, I can come in with just a wee bit here. I can even kind of change that shape a little bit. I liked it, but maybe it was a little too much. I don't know. Maybe let me come back in with the toilet paper and kind of re-soften that. Okay. And then we'll change the shape. There we go. So basically, I just kind of worked that in with water. I didn't even grab any paint. And now I'm still working, I just have what's in my brush, which is mostly water. And I'm just working this paint over into there a little bit more. I'm going to kind of leave that alone because I kind of like what's going on there. Well, actually, I don't like this line. So I'm just going to add some water right there and soften that line that happened. And then we'll come over here. I like this kind of shape, and I want this to be a little bit darker over here. I have a tendency, I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a tendency to paint past the edge of my painting just so it helps me imagine what the rest of the sky looks like, so it informs on what this area could be. I'm going to add a little more blue in here. Now that seems like a lot, but it's mostly water. I'm going to clean my brush out and then come back in and kind of move it around a little bit more. I just kind of want to break that shape up a little bit, kind of pull it. I'm just going to kind of push my brush to get kind of this wispy look right there. So if I zoom kind of down into that, you can see how the bristles of my brush are kind of spreading apart as I push it. And they form that kind of jaggedy, soft kind of shape. Okay, so let me finish out my thought over here. Kind of soften some of that back down. as we get over here. I'm going to pick that up. I think for now, I want that to kind of look like it's going off the page. Okay, so I'm going to pick up this excess with this because I don't want this water running back down. I'm going to flip my sky back around so I can see what it looks like. And, you know, I like it. So now that this is right set up, I don't like this shape. I liked it before, but I don't now. So I'm just going to get rid of it just really quickly. Sometimes that happens. You'll like something upside down, but then when it flips back over, you're like, nope, that doesn't work. So I don't really care for that, but I do want to soften this a little bit more. Or maybe the cloud kind of gets softened into the sky. It doesn't show quite as much. I could add, just because I want to, I'm going to grab a little opera and add that up into here just to give it a little bit more interest. Just going to add just a hint of that in the sky in a few spots, maybe even in this cloud right here. It'll come out as kind of a pinkish purple, and that's okay. That's kind of what I want. I'm just using it to kind of make this shadowy area and to make the cloud just a little bit more interesting. So, and I'm just using the side of my brush to paint this in. But you can see it's very soft and very subtle. It's not a big blob of opera. It's just a very subtle little bit of color in there. I'm going to come in now. I have that violet that we mixed up. It was, you know, kind of a blue violet. It's now kind of become even more violet. But it's still kind of a gray, you know, it's still kind of a gray violet. I'll show it to you real quick. Let's see if I can get rid of the glare. There we go. So it's this kind of blue, gray, or purpley, or gray purple, kind of gray, blue, purple, whatever, blue violet. I'm going to use a little bit of that. So we'll come back over here. And I want it really thinned down. So I'm just going to put a little in, and obviously that looks like way too much, and that's fine. It does look like too much, but I'm going to completely clean my brush out, and now I'm going to just come in on with the side of my brush and kind of pick some of that back up, and pull it down towards the mountain here. I just want, you know, that's kind of the shadow underside of these clouds, maybe. But you can see how that, just by cleaning my brush and moving it around, that really spreads out that color quite a bit. So I think it needs a little bit more over in here. Just kind of painting using the side of my brush. I can push and pull the brush, so I get kind of these wispy, feathery shapes. Very similar to what I was doing with the tree. I'm also going to, I want to add a little brightness to these clouds, so I'm going to grab a little bit of my permanent yellow deep. If you recall, that's this one right here. I have a little bit on my palette. You could use Azo yellow. You could use Indian yellow. They're both very similar. You could use a light, you know, cadmium orange or cadmium yellow deep if you have that. I'm just going to grab let's see, make sure my brush is clean. Just grab a little bit of that. It may come off as a little bit too much at first, but that's all right. We can lighten some of it up. I just want to add a little bit of color into here, like the sun is catching these clouds. So I'm going to add just a little bit of this permanent yellow deep. Now that is too much, so I need to come back in and kind of lighten that, you know, soften that up a little bit. Same with up here. While it's still wet, just kind of rolling my brush through it, softening it. Just pull a little bit more, even though that's blue up in there. I want a little bit of that. Just adds a little bit of, you know, where the cloud is catching that sunlight a little bit. There may be a little bit too much right here still. That's really catching my eye, and not the way I want it to. Let's put a little bit here. We can come back in and pick up a little bit of it. I don't know that I put enough down to begin with. There we go. Yeah, so all that does is add a little bit of a pop of color to these clouds. It makes it a little more interesting. I am going to come back in now with a little more opera, just in a few of these little spots here, just to make that nice, you know, blend nicely. And you know, I've got some up there, but it really felt like it needed some in here in these clouds. Maybe even up in, I had some there, but, and again, this isn't very much. I'm just barely, well, that I reloaded my brush and got a little bit too much. You know, I'm just barely, it's mostly water with just a wee bit of color, just a tiny amount of color. And if I get too much, then I go back and I clean my brush out, and I use just water to move it around, and it then is just the perfect amount. Wow, this is really crooked. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah, so just, yeah, we'll put a little more in here. Just adds that kind of, I don't know. Well, it adds a wee bit of a Southwest flair. I think, you know, we get those really beautiful multicolored clouds when the sun hits just right. And that's a little opera right there. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're going to get that kind of rainbow cloud almost. Yeah. On camera, it looks, at least on my monitor, it looks a little dirty. It's not really that, you know, it looks kind of muddy up in here. On paper, it doesn't look that muddy. So I apologize if it looks a little muddy to you guys. It's not. I am going to lift some of this back out though, just because I think there is a bit much right there. That's a little bit better. And then what I'm going to do is just come in. I think, let's see, I'm going to add a little more. I'm going to add a little cerulean blue. So that's what this is. I grabbed a little bit of that and I added it to my violet here. So it's just kind of a gray violet. Just kind of pulling this across. That's what that is, cerulean blue right there. And I'm making this kind of nice gray, violety blue. Pull a little bit more up in there of this violet. And I just want to add a little bit of dark under bit to, let's see, I'm going to hit it with a dryer real quick. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to come in. I just want a little bit more of that shadow. So I know that looks like a lot. Don't panic. Because I'm just going to come back in now and move that around. I completely clean the brush out. I can squeeze some of the paint out with my paper towel or just wipe it off, really. All I'm doing is kind of putting in a little bit of a shadow underneath these clouds. So there's a lot of paint right there. Too much, but it's too much for if I was going to leave it like that. I'm now going to clean my brush out again, tap it off, maybe wipe it just a little bit, and then come in using the side of my brush, kind of like you do a pencil when you're shading things or blending things, and just this kind of gives it kind of flattens out the cloud a little bit. It's kind of the bottom of the cloud a little bit, and helps it recede in space just a skosh by doing this, adding this little bit of shadow to the bottom. Just a wee bit more right up in here. Maybe there's another little bit right in there. Yeah. I do feel like I need a little bit more peacock blue right over here. I like this lost edge, but I don't like this half found, half lost edge, and I think it'll be easier to make it a found edge versus a lost edge. So I'm just going to add a little more peacock blue in here and really help define that edge. And we'll just kind of pull that up into there. Same with over here, we'll just kind of pull that up in there. And that's just water on my brush that I completely clean out my brush. And then I can come back in with a clean, I have just paper towel here, and just kind of blot that just a skosh, just to help that. But I like how that becomes found again. It was kind of a halfway thing, and it needed to be one way or the other. And I do feel like making it a found edge versus a lost edge was the way to go. Partially because it's a little easier if it's halfway to go the darker route. But you can always go darker. It's going lighter that's a little more difficult. If I felt like this should have been the lost edge, though, I would have softened it and made it a little bit lighter and softer, so it would have been more of a lost edge. And I know that looks fairly dark on camera, but it's not that dark in person, so. Still not super happy with this right here. Just kind of soft. Basically, I'm just adding a bunch of water right in there to kind of soften that up. And I'll see how it kind of dries. But I like what's going on there a little bit. I don't like this little peak that I've got here. I'm going to take that out because the peak of the mountain needs to be the peak, I think. That was inadvertently mimicked in the cloud. I didn't really care for it, so out it goes. Let me step back, kind of look at it. Yeah, not too bad. The color does look a little weird on camera versus in person. It's a little earthier on camera than it is in person, but I think it's overall not too bad. Let me dry this really quickly. Yeah, I'm going to put a couple little birds in there, I think. Just going to grab a dark color. I picked up a little of this blue here and pulled it over into a little of this green. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is just grab some indigo and drop it in there so it's a little bit darker. There's still a little green in it, but it's mostly kind of a nice dark blue. And I'm just going to come in here and kind of think about, okay, well, where do I... Wait, that towel that I just stuck my elbow in is really wet. Where I feel like maybe I want some birds. Maybe I'll put one right about here. And I kind of want one, I feel like I want one down here in front of the mountain. That just helps push that mountain back in space a little bit. And then maybe we'll do another one right up in here. Like so. Yeah. That, by putting that bird there, it helps push that mountain back in space. I do kind of feel like it needs just a bit more dark down in here. Just to kind of push it back as well. I was having a little trouble with it. It was fighting with the front, with that, with the wall there. I'm not going to worry about, well, I can just pull that up. If I get a little bit of line or whatever in there from adding that, it's okay. I'm not too worried about it, but that helps push that back as well. Let me dry that really quickly. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I kind of want to do is I want to add a bit of a bit of that vignette look. So I'm just going to cover up stuff that I don't want to get sprayed blue, mainly things on my desk. Like my palette. Other things. Let's see. Do I have? Well, let's use this towel because it's. So we'll just. Let's see here. Actually, I don't really care about that. What I do care about is this stuff. All right. Well. Okay. That's pretty good. So I'm going to take, if you remember, this is just a normal spray bottle. It's a fine mist sprayer that I filled with cobalt blue. And I just squeezed out a snake of paint that's about 1.5 inches long in there. And then I filled, so it's really not that much paint at all. And then I filled it up 2/3 with water. And I'm going to shake it up really good. I'll show you. I want to make sure that there's no, let's see if you can see that, that there's no globs of paint in the bottom, because those will get sucked up into this straw. I don't know if I've talked about this recently, but you'll notice, so this is the way the little sprayer nozzle is going. And you'll notice that this straw, all these straws have like a bend in them. You'll notice that this one bends the same direction as the spray nozzle. So when I'm holding it at this angle, at about a 45-degree angle, the deepest part of the paint, the water and paint is down in that section of the bottle. So let me finish getting this all shaken up. You can get these bottles anywhere. This one's from Target, I think, but I know they have them at Hobby Lobby. They have them at Walmart, where, anywhere. And then I'm going to do a couple quick little test spritzes in my bucket, make sure that it's paint coming out. And I'm just going to, I'm going to hover over the center of my painting, but I'm going to spray out, and I'm going to aim for kind of the edge. So I'm just kind of going to hit that. And what it does is it kind of knocks back the edge, and it makes it a little, it makes a nice little vignette, but it knocks back the edge of this. Now, where I got a little blob right there, I can just pick that back up with a paper towel. Am I happy with that? So now this becomes kind of my, I'm forcing you in to the painting. This stuff gets pushed back a little bit. It's a nice fine mist. I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to clean my nozzle out really quickly in my, basically I just took the top off and I'm squeezing it out. I've got it sort of submerged in my water bucket, and I'm cleaning out the nozzle so that it doesn't get clogged. After using these, you always have to kind of clean it out so it's clean water in the straw and inside the nozzle. Let's see. So let me just kind of wipe this off here so it doesn't get drugged through. But you can see I've made this. You're less likely to come out here, and that little, on both sides here, there was that little bit of bright yellow right there and right there that really would pull your eye away from the painting. So now you kind of come in and you work your way around, and you come in and, you know, the bird's kind of coming down in here. This leads you in. I don't know if I like that so much, but that's all right. I let it dry a little bit too much or too quickly before noticing it. But there it is. Yeah, that's, I think, you know, obviously this is in the foreground, but it's, and while we put some detail in it, I still want to force you into here. I want you to I want to force you into, or entice you, I guess. Really, force sounds bad, but I want to entice the viewer into this garden area and into here. Because even though this gate is kind of interesting, it's not really the you know, the thing that we've come to see. Any questions?
Nope, I'm still painting.
Okay.
Probably will be painting all weekend to catch up.
Oh.
So when we get back to class, can you teach us how to do that vignette?
Yes, I will show you how to do that. Yeah, in person when we get back to in-person class. Yeah, I'll show you how to do it.
Or I'll just bring you all of my pictures and have you do it.
I used to do it for my mom because she had trouble. She couldn't quite get it to work right.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of practice. But I really like the effect. It really helps pull you into the painting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a simple trick, which really, you know, when you think about it, that's all watercolor is just little tricks or techniques that help you.
Well,
tell a
with
story.
the gate here, it's very obvious how that vignette just creates that that gate with the highlight and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So nice job. Looks
Well,
great.
thank you.
Well, you're the professional, so we don't expect anything less.
Well, I'll tell you this, no matter how much, I mean, I'm always learning something new.
Yeah.
So something that makes my my work a little better, and just the act of practicing, I can tell when I haven't painted in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a little bit, you know, when I was redoing the painting on Thursday, it took me a second because I hadn't painted all week. And it took me a second to kind of get back into the flow. It's like, oh, I can feel that I have not painted in a few days. And if I go longer than that, you know, there've been times when I haven't painted for about a month or so. And I start painting again, and it feels a little weird, and it takes me a second to get back into the flow of things. So it really is important to, you know, I guess it's like anything, playing an instrument, you know, playing a sport, whatever it is, that practice and that muscle memory, even though the muscle memory is still kind of there, sometimes, you know, it takes a minute to get back into the swing of things if you haven't been doing it for a while. So that constant practice.
Yeah, you know, life just happens, and it's kind of hard.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To do it every day.
Yeah, it is hard. I don't get to do it every day. Obviously, I you know, with traveling back and forth between here and Gallup, I have a hard time painting every day because I get back from Gallup and I'm, you know, it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm thinking, nope, I'm not, not going to the studio.
Way.
I got to get back up at 7 a.m. and
yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. So let me look at the thing here real quick.
So how many days a week do you go down to Gallup?
3 days a week.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It might change to 4, depending on how my class schedule works out. Let's see. What am I looking for? Class roster. I'm kind of trying to decide if I actually want to apply for the actual gig. You know, they hired me to be the interim director while they search for a director. I have been told that if I apply for it, I'll probably get it, but I'm trying to decide if I want it. Because I don't, you know, as much as I love working with downtowns, it's just such a long drive. And it's a big community. I suppose it'd be easier if I found a place to stay down there, but that kind of eats into your, of course, gas eats into your
paycheck
as well. So it's one or the other. But so I'm just trying to decide what I want to do with that. Let's see. I'm trying to look at here. When does the next? No, that's the 24th. Okay. So I was looking at when the next class starts, and that's on the 19th. So in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. The 19th. Yeah, couple weeks.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
Yep, couple weeks. So we'll have a couple weeks off, and then we'll be in class. I did get an email today. Let me see if I can find it here. Where did it go? I was looking at it. There's some sort of app that they want people to download onto their phones. It's called San Juan. I guess if you just go to the app store for your phone, it's called San Juan College, and you download the app, and I'm going to forward this email to everybody, you know, in case you sign up for class. It's in lieu of getting your temperature taken. They're still kind of doing that kind of stuff. But
do we have to wear masks?
I don't think so. Think so.
Oh, good. I hope not.
Yeah. Let's see.
Some people just can't handle having that over their face.
Yeah, my brother's one of those guys. He has really, I suffer a little bit from claustrophobia, but he suffers a lot from claustrophobia, and it really affects his mental state. he has a lot, you know, I don't like it because it's hot and it makes me sweat more. So it's slightly uncomfortable, but it doesn't bother me as much as it does him. I mean, he really, it's hard for him. He can do it for a short amount of time, but luckily he has an office at his job where he can just, you know, once he walks into the building, he's kind of by himself in there, so he can take his mask off.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I'll forward this. I don't know. I'm just going to forward this to everybody. I don't know how important it is. Basically, it's just a reminder for self-check of symptoms. I don't know how. I may not even. I don't know. I'll look into it, see how big a deal it is. I'll put it on my phone, and then I think that's really all it is just a thing that'll.
My daughter forwarded it. She forwarded it to me.
Who did?
You have to go into the app, and then you go into the app, and then it has you go into your email, and you have to know your email address and your. So I'm going to have to find out what my email address is and.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of work.
Password and all that.
Yeah, do we all have to do that?
I don't know. I'll look into it and figure it out. I'm not going to worry about it the first day. If they tell us to do something, then I'll do it. But I think, I don't know what the class size, is or will be. And I'm even though I'm not advertising it, I am making the online available. It'll be a little bit different than what we've been doing lately. It'll be a little bit different than what we're doing here, where I'm just, it'll be structured more like the classes the in-person classes.
Yeah.
So, but if someone's not feeling well or feels like they want to stay home or whatever, I'm going to be doing, taking this whole shebang with me, because it's not very heavy, and it's really actually quite portable. And recording classes anyway, and doing Zoom. So we'll just use the same link. I'll send that link out to everybody. Or if you've already got it, you've got. I'm just going to use the same one, but instead of Mondays, it'll be Thursdays, and that way, people who, if somebody doesn't feel super comfortable coming into class or whatever, that's great, or for some reason, but I'm not going to worry about it the first day. I think it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. There for a while, it was taking like a half hour to an hour to get into class. That's why I said I wasn't going to do a hybrid class for anything, because I didn't want to have to get there an hour early for class. Just to get my temperature taken, and students would have to do that, and it just seemed like a lot of wasted time. So it wasn't. I was, it's easier on everybody just doing the distance, the online versions of all my classes. This one I just figured it'd be easier, period, to do online, but they didn't even actually give me the choice of a hybrid class. But my graphic design classes that I teach, they gave me a choice, and I told them that I just wanted to do a online version, just because I didn't want to waste anybody's time with having to go on campus and get your temperature taken and go through a whole rigmarole. So, but I think we'll be all right. So, I wouldn't worry about it for the first class. If we find out we have to do it, then I'll talk about it in class then, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Sounds good.
So,
All right. Well, I have really enjoyed the classes, and I will look at the videos and try to figure out how to finish this one.
All right. Well, you can always email me or send me a picture, and I can, or if I'm usually here in Artifacts on Thursdays. You can come visit me with it, and I'll happily look at it. So,
all right.
Yeah, I'm anytime. It doesn't even have to be something we worked on in class. If it's something else Janie does that all the time. She'll pop in and say, "Hey, can you look at this for me?" So yeah, feel free to pop in.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and for those
Thank
who,
you.
Hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and if not, at some point in the future.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks.
We'll see.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.